got Alice today from Mouthy Marketing, and you're going to tell us all about why being vegan isn't enough anymore. So I'm excited to hear your talk, and yeah, thank you for coming along.
That's great. Thanks, Sam. Can everyone see my screen okay? Can they see that splodge?
Can? Yeah.
Good. Okay, can you see me as well?
Yep, we can.
Good. Okay, so it does what it says on the tin. My presentation is going to be about why, as a business, being vegan isn't necessarily enough anymore, or marketing your small vegan business in a saturated market. So I'd say this presentation is probably most geared towards people who are early in their business journey, but hopefully there's little nuggets of information that everyone can use there. Okay, so let's get started, she says. So in 2023, you have to be more than vegan. Some people have probably heard this said before. You have to be more than vegan when you consider your unique selling points. Vegan isn't necessarily enough. So to give you a bit of background, last November, I went to a plant-based expo, I think it's called, in London. And I walked around and I spoke to loads and loads of businesses, and I spoke to business owners, and I said, what is your biggest challenge in 2022, as it was then? And overwhelmingly, business owners said that they were taking their product or their service to buyers, and buyers were saying, well, what's your unique selling point? And they'd say, well, we're vegan. And the buyers would go, meh, so? That just isn't enough these days. So the trick is to find another USP that makes you stand out. And I'm going to give you a few examples of businesses who have been pretty successful in doing just that. So the first is Move Free. I don't know if anyone's familiar with them. I've got a little fondness for Move Free because they were actually my first ever client. And Move Free are probably the country's oldest vegan chocolate company. They started, I don't know, decade, probably 13 years ago, doing vegan chocolate. It's free from obviously dairy products and some other allergens as well. And obviously they've felt their competition creep up behind them over the years. You know, being a vegan chocolate maker now is no great shakes. There's loads of them. So they've been clever enough to adapt, and now they focus on ethics and sustainability. They're registered as a B Corp, and they've built themselves a really large free-from community. So people with allergies, parents of children with allergies who obviously miss out on what's considered normal, what their friends have, and they've built themselves a really loyal following that way. Okay, the next vegan business is Bulldog Skincare. We've probably all seen them in the supermarkets, or certainly in the UK. They're a well-known vegan brand, but actually their secondary, or it might even be their first USP that's really key, is they're the first grooming brand to be specially for men rather than an adapted women's range. So like, I don't know, Nivea for men or something like that. So that's how they're differentiating themselves there. The last one is our friends at One Planet Pizza. And One Planet Pizza, again, I'm sure they're feeling the competition. There are probably, I don't know, 3, even half a dozen pizza companies or companies that make vegan pizza that I can think of. But One Planet Pizza, they're clever, and probably these 3 USPs they use to stand out. One is that we think of pizza as your classic comfort food, right? And we all like what's familiar. And they are keen that you shouldn't feel like you're missing out because, you know, just because you're vegan. So they focus on the classic pizza styles, you know, your margherita, your equivalent of your meat feast or whatever. And also we'll talk about overcoming objections in a little bit, but a key objection, I think, probably to becoming vegan or eating vegan food is that people think that the cheese is a bit rubbish. So One Planet Pizza, they've taken that on board, and they pride themselves on this melty, stretchy cheese that apparently behaves just like cow's cheese, And again, it brings people into that comfort zone, takes away the objections. And the last one, which we all care about, is our health. A little bit healthier than your average pizza, less salt, less sugar, less saturated fat. Okay. So moving on quickly, and by the way, if you're curious, when I tested this presentation before, it's about 25 minutes long, so I'll try not to bore you to death. Branding. So I'm going to talk a little bit about branding your vegan business, and again, taking into consideration that you have to think outside the box in 2023. Why is branding important? Okay, so branding builds your relationship with your audience. It builds familiarity, which is really important. And most importantly, it builds trust. It distinguishes you from your competitors, obviously. And once you get well known, it makes introducing new products into the market much, much easier. What is branding not? Branding is not your logo, okay? Branding is your tone of voice, how you speak to people. It's your overall message. It's your policies. It's your mission, your values, your beliefs, how you solve problems, overcome objections. It can be your customer service. You might be one of these companies who's really well known for exceptional customer service, like John Lewis used to be in the UK. Or it can even be as deep as like your HR policy. You might want to be known as a company who treats its staff exceptionally well. So all of those things, everything that encompasses your business and how you want to communicate that, is your branding. Okay. Now I say that branding is not your logo, but your logo is really important. Okay. Now, let's look at some logos. You could be forgiven for thinking this was 1980. But actually, these are vegan brands in 2023. And quite frankly, it all looks the same. Now, I apologize to anyone who's using tons of green in their branding. I'm not saying it's wrong, but let's look at how you can consider other things. So you don't have to be so literal. It's tempting, but you don't have to be. So all of these brands look the same, and that is the problem there. So you think a tree might make you stand out as a vegan business, while it might act as a code for people when they see the tree and they see the green, they might go, oh, that's a vegan business. It doesn't necessarily make you stand out. What makes you stand out is standing out. So being different to what everybody else does. And that doesn't mean you have to be different for the sake of it, but you have to do it for the right reasons. So back to our friends at One Planet Pizza. This is how they started out. And their brand was everything I've talked about. It's green, it's got a planet, it's got a green leaf. Somewhere through their journey, they thought, we want to stand out a bit more, and they rebranded, and they did a really good job of it. They do stand out as a brand now, and their business has soared, I'm glad to say. Okay, so how do you make a start on your own visual branding? It can be quite overwhelming, quite daunting. I think that the best way to do it is create a mood board. So if anybody hasn't seen a mood board, it's just like a little scrapbook of brands, images, colors, and messages that inspire you and your business. This is actually my own mood board. So you might remember I said I rebranded, well, now, really. So I went through this process with a branding consultant for my own website. And these were some brands that I liked in the ethical, sustainable, vegan markets. And you can see that it's all quite big and bold, whereas my brand was a little bit apologetic before, I think, because I came out of COVID and I was testing the waters. I wasn't sure what people would think of me, but then I thought, let's go out there. So I created this mood board. There's a little bit of green, as you can see, but as I said, bold. It's got colors. And this is my website now. So you can kind of see that I have taken inspiration from my own mood board. And now when I'm looking at other little designy bits, I always go back to that mood board and I'm like reminding me of the people that inspire me. I've actually got a branding worksheet that I sometimes use with clients, again, at the beginning of their journey. If anybody wants that, just message me and I'm more than happy to send it over. Okay, so the next section. I'm going to talk a little bit about SEO and keywords and how they can help your website get found. So let's start with keyword research. And what do I mean by keyword research? I mean researching the terms that people are going to enter into their browser to find businesses like yours. You can then use those terms on your website to get your content found by search engines. So one of the tools that I use quite a few tools for keyword research. This is SEMrush. SEMrush does actually have a free version. It's not time limited. Obviously, the functionality is a little bit limited, but you can use it for as long as you like. And you put in keywords or you put in topics, and it'll spit you keywords back out. Basically, it'll give you suggestions. And remember that we're thinking outside the box here. We're thinking about how to get other topics other than keywords than just maybe vegan related ones. So you put in those keywords, and obviously common terms like vegan are widely used by many businesses. SEMrush will tell you how competitive the keywords are. And what it will also tell you is how many searches there are for that term every month. So the secret is to get a word that has low competition but high volume. So there's no point in finding a really unique keyword that you think none of your competitors will use if nobody ever searches for that term. It's useless. So SEMrush will give you some keyword ideas. It'll give you related keywords, so to help put your topic in context for search engines, and it will also suggest questions that are asked around your topic. So the topic of your business. And why are questions really important in 2023? So a million years ago, when I started on the internet, when we would do searches in Google or other search engines, we would use like a word or two. So I'd type like silver necklace or something. Now, as there are billions, trillions of pages, my search is likely to be more verbose and it's likely to be a question. So instead of silver necklace, I'd type, what kind of jewelry can I get for my 75-year-old mother-in-law for her birthday? So when you type in your topic or your keywords, SEMrush will suggest to you questions that people are asking around the topic at the moment, and you can use those in your keyword research, or in your keywords, rather. SEMrush will also group your keywords for you, and grouping works in two ways. So if you put your keywords into clusters, if you like, so it allows Google to understand the context of your page better if you use the keywords from one of these groups, but it also allows you to target different keywords on different pages. And that's really important because it means that you're less likely to have different pages competing for the same keywords. I hope that makes sense. Little tip that I use when I just want to do some really quick keyword research. I just want to see what people are searching for around my topic at the time. Obviously, I've got very little data surrounding that, but I go to good old Google. I type in my topic or my keywords. Instead of hitting enter, I hit space, and it presents that lovely list to me. And that lovely list contains words that people are searching for right now around my topic or keywords. Okay, So SEMrush has given you a list of lovely keywords. You've written them all down. You've put them in groups so you can use them on different pages. Where do you use those keywords? Okay, it's really important for you to be consistent with your keywords and use those same keywords across the internet, not just in your website. So you use them on your social media, you use them in your Google My Business. It's not called Google My Business anymore, sorry, but you know the thing I mean, the panel on the right-hand side. And other directories as well. If you're entering your business in other directories, make sure that all the data is consistent. And then, so your meta title and your meta description are the title and description that appear in the search engine results. So you can enter these, if you're using WordPress, you can use a plugin like Yoast, or if you're using something like Shopify, it has that built in. So you can put a title and a description of each page, ensuring that you're using your keywords. And this will help your SEO. This will help you be found in search engines. When it comes to the web pages themselves, here are places you can insert your keywords to make you more likely to be found. One is in your URL, so www.aliceswebsite.co.uk/vegan sausage rolls. In your H1 header, so that's your biggest header. You might have subheadings as well. You can include them there. In your image alt tags, so that's the little descriptions that you should put on all of your images on your website, and of course your main copy. So that might be a product, your product description, or your blog, or wherever. So a word of warning about using your keywords. There is no magic number of how many times you should use your keyword on any one web page. I would recommend using it at least 3 times. But the old adage is that you write for people, not for Google. So write for people first, Google second. Make it sound nice and natural. Don't stuff those keywords. Google sees keyword stuffing as cheating the system, and it can penalize you by, worst case, taking your page off the search engine. Now, I actually don't know anybody that's ever happened to, but I know it does happen, and I know that when it does happen, it's really, really hard to come back from. So keep that copy nice and natural. Make sure you're including your keywords, but keep it natural, right for people. Okay, and to me, just a little amusing picture there. These people are the kings of SEO to me. Okay, so the last section is on your audience, about finding your audience, the people you want to talk to about your product and service, and then how you're going to talk to them. So why do you need to get to know your audience? Well, because you can't be everything to everyone. So the number one reason for me of why you need to get to know your audience is because you need to know where they hang out so you can reach them and talk to them. So one of the most popular questions I get asked now, and have done since probably the beginning of last year, is should I use TikTok? Not for me to answer that. The answer to that question is, well, does your audience use TikTok? Do the kind of people that you want to reach live on TikTok? Or do they live on Facebook? Or do they not use social media at all? You need to find that out. Also, why do you need to get to know them? You need to find out what motivates them. You need to find out what their problems are, demonstrate how you can solve them, and quite importantly, talk to them in their language. So think about how different brands talk. So if you take John Lewis in the UK, they sell everything really. They're a department store, but they're quite middle-aged, quite comforting, creature comforts. It's all very nice and sort of beige. And their language is very reassuring, versus somebody like Nike, who is very go get 'em. very inspiring, you know, obviously sport inspired, and so about being the best that you can be. So find out your audience's language and talk to them like that. So how do you actually find out about them? I think that the best way to find out about anything or anybody when you're starting out with your own businesses is to stalk your competitors. So what platforms are your competitors most active on? Because they've already done that research, so that they know where your audience hangs out. What hashtags do they use, and what do their followers use? I'm also a big fan of just talking to people. People get, particularly new business owners, they get a bit nervous of talking to people, but people like to be talked to. They like to be engaged with, if it's done in a non-threatening, non-salesy way. Even if you've only sold to a few customers, if you want to find out about them, find out what they like, how you can solve their problems, what products they like, what products they like to see, ask them. Create polls, create surveys, questionnaires, send them out. I find that people are more likely to answer surveys if you give them incentives, so like a discount or entry into a prize draw. So an example of this is I did a survey for a client of mine not too long ago. They're a charity, and the respondents of this survey said that the majority of the, not the majority, a good percentage of them donated simply because it, or the most important reason was because it made them look good to their peers. That information is gold to me. I need to exploit that. The obvious thing for me to do, if they want to look good, is to design some kind of mechanism to allow them to share their donation on social media with their peers. So that is exploiting their motivation, if you like, there. And again, finding out about your audience. It's time consuming, but it's really important. And one of the best ways is to simply stalk your followers, get in there, dive into that social media, find your followers, find their friends, build a picture of what they like, find out what celebrities they like, what interests they have, what hobbies they have, what are their problems. And that allows you to think about, again, how you're going to solve those problems. So you can go and find people in groups and channels like Facebook groups. You can find communities on LinkedIn, like this one. You can search hashtags on Instagram and TikTok and find your tribe. And again, think outside the box. You know, being vegan isn't enough. Your audience probably isn't, well, nobody's just vegan. They're not just vegan. So you can investigate other audiences like flexitarian. Don't forget, flexitarian is a much, much bigger market than vegan. They might be into fitness. Look at allergy groups. Look at parents of vegans, environmentalists, if that suits the product or service that you're offering. Okay. Sorry, one thing I forgot. You can also find out a little bit about your audience by using Google Analytics. Google Analytics is, not everybody has it, but I think Shopify and a few other web platforms have kind of their own equivalent, and they can tell you quite a lot about the traffic on your website. I recommend everybody has it, but not everybody has the time. And you can see on Google Analytics where your website visitors are from, what gender they are, their age groups, and a little bit about their interests. So that's really useful information. And you can also find what websites or platforms have directed people to your website. So you can see which of your social media platforms is performing the best. Okay, so with that information in mind, how do you talk to your audience? First of all, use their language. We talked a bit about that, the difference between John Lewis and Nike. You know, you're going to be talking to your boomers in a slightly different way to how you're talking to your Gen Zers. for example. You solve their problems. So, for example, you might be an educator, somebody who creates courses, maybe nutrition courses, like, Lena might do that. And people's natural objections are going to be, it takes up too much time. So you can say, you can do this course in just half an hour a day with these results. So you're overcoming people's objections before they have a chance to voice them. How do you talk to them? One of the most important things is to make people trust you. Now, you've done that partly with your recognizable brand, but to make people really trust you, show those testimonials, show those reviews. Don't be afraid of asking your customers for reviews. Okay. So show those testimonials, show those reviews, and show that you understand their problems. One way to talk to people is through storytelling. Now, storytelling has absolutely been the buzzword of like the 2020s, but it really works. So if you can make those stories really personal, like, this is Mike. Mike was really stressed in his job and 20 pounds overweight. He took our nutrition course, and this is Mike now. He's really happy. So that's really useful storytelling. Now, one of the last things I'm going to talk about, and this is related to branding, is making people feel stuff, because we are all motivated by our emotions. Most purchases are emotive purchases. And little exercise I do with my clients is I ask them to write down 5 things that they think their products or services make people feel. So if I sell something that people wear, my products might make people feel, I don't know, sexy, unique, lively, free, trendy, street, any of those things. Write down those 5 emotions. And then from there on in, when you are picking your images to put on your social media or your website, make sure that your images represent one of those emotions. So then you start getting this kind of nice circular emotive thing between your brand, your products, your images, the emotions, your audience. They start associating those images or your sets of images with your brand and those emotions. Okay. And the last thing that's really important about how to talk to your audience is make it about them, not you. So we're all guilty of this. And I've written the copy for my website, and then I've gone, oh, it's all about me. And I've rewritten it, because nobody cares about you. They want to hear about themselves. People love to hear about themselves. And again, you are solving people's problems. So talk about them, not you. And so you're probably aware that in most marketing or advertising, you begin a blurb with a question. For example, are you looking to lose weight quickly? Well, why do we do this? We don't just do this because it's trendy, even though it is. It's because we want to talk about the audience first. So hearing about ourselves is the most important thing to all of us. But it's important to say that you have to do your research and get inside your audience's head before you ask that question, because the last thing you want to do is to say, hey, do you want to lose weight? And you've accidentally targeted the wrong group, and nobody does. You're asking the wrong question to the wrong group. So make sure that you've done your homework before you start posing those questions and talking to your audience about themselves. So thank you very much. Thank you so much for listening. That's the end of my presentation. I hope it's been really useful. Don't forget to message me if you want that branding worksheet. Thanks very much. How do I?
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Alice. Wow, so much information in sort of 20 minutes. It's yeah, I don't know how you managed to squeeze all that in. I wonder if anyone has got any questions about what we've just heard. Anything that popped to mind. I mean, something that resonated with me was the mood board, Alice, because it's not really something that I thought of doing before, but I've done it in other aspects of life, and so it's something that's really interesting to do. Would you suggest that works around if you're planning, say, a campaign, or is that purely around branding? Would you?
Yes, that's a really good question, actually, Sam. You can, yeah, I have done a similar exercise to that with campaigns when we start thinking about going into a new market or targeting a new audience, and you go, okay, well, what does this audience like? And you can start building up a picture of your new audience and the kind of things that they like. So my audience, they're into sport, they like Beyonce, they you know, blah blah blah, and you can build up a little sort of scrapbook. And so you can build a persona from that, and then you can start targeting those people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because the persona kind of thing is a really difficult one to do. But I think once you've had a discussion with someone, to then go back and see that visually, I like the visual side of things. So to go back and then start to see that visually as to how you might build those messages out is quite an interesting thought.
Sure.
Interesting. I have to give that a try and come back to you and see if it worked or not.
I'm a person, so I always say there's two types of marketers. One is really creative marketers, and one is spreadsheet people. Now, I'm a spreadsheet person, so to do that kind of exercise when I have no imagination is really, really helpful to me.
Yeah, because I suppose it's good to be able to visualize not only that person but the kinds of things that they're in. Whereas if you've got a list of things, it doesn't necessarily bring it out. Interesting one. Thank you. And oh, sorry, Alice.
I'm just reading the comments actually to see if there's any questions. Sorry, go on, Sam.
So we had some lovely comments from Carla was saying it's a good point to talk about them, not you. That's a really important one, because you see that on so many sites. Lots of information about kind of what people do, but actually doesn't address any of the problems that the user might have. Okay. So Shabari.
Yes, thank you very much, Alice. That was really interesting. So thank you. Yeah, my question was going back to that point about how much about yourself do you need to perhaps put on your website, because obviously we want people to know, like, and trust you. So I guess there has to be some kind of balance between that and also you know, not saying too much about yourself. And so, you know, you mentioned that that people don't really care about you, but I've looked at websites and where I've become quite annoyed, actually, because I can't find anything about the founders at all. Not a bean. Nothing at all. I don't know if that's the right term, but anyway, like yeah, I've not seen anything at all about the founders, and that's really annoyed me because they've not put anything on there. So what would be your kind of like a suggestion about how much to put on your website about yourself, so that people know, like, and trust you, and so that people do care about you?
Sure. It's a really good question, Shabari. Thank you. And I've just seen Carla has just typed true. I do like to read the About Us section. And that's interesting, Carla, because actually, statistically, the About Us page is, I think, the most read page on any given website. So you're right, Shabari. People do want to know about the business. So I think it's really important to have an About Us page that people can voluntarily go to when they want to know about your business. But on your home page, I would start with them and you ask that question. So on my website, it says something like, are you struggling to get your business noticed in a oversaturated blah, blah, blah? And then it says, and then it's got some sentence about how I solve that or how we solve that. So ask the question, talk about how you solve that, and then a little bit more blurb. And then once people want to know, so you've talked about them, you've talked about why you exist to solve that problem. Obviously, talk about what services you offer and stuff. And then once people want to know how to trust you, they can go to your about page. They can read more about you. And obviously, another thing that's kind of touched upon in this question is that I always say people buy from people. You know, it's a cliche in the business world, but it's still so true. People buy from people. They like those founders. They like that relationship with faces in the business. So keep yourself transparent, particularly if you've got a small business. Present yourself where you can. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, you know, it was about like getting the balance, and so you've mentioned that the about us would be about yourself, and that will give people the choice of if they want to know about the founder, but the home page should be about how you help your audience. But like, say if you have more than one audience, like with myself, I have two different audiences. One is the virtual stall holders, and then bringing the audience for my virtual stall holders. So that's two different audiences. So it's quite difficult to be able to kind of like, especially with my website, which audience should I target and where they should go.
Sure. Well, something that I sort of neglected to talk about is we often talk about our homepage like it's the be all and end all. And a lot of our content and a lot of our promotion doesn't even link to our homepage, and it doesn't have to. So you can have a number of landing pages on your website that are targeting your different audiences. And I actually recommend that you do that. Whether that's for some business owners that might be different audiences in terms of their demographics, or for you it might be in terms of just what businesses they are. So you can start doing that quite targeted social media promotion or whatever your promotion is, and driving people to those slightly different web pages so they feel a bit special and like it's directed at them and like it's appropriate to them.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much, Alice.
Thank you so much, Alice. So we're on our time. I'm sure I've got loads more questions, so I'm sure I'll be in touch with you. But as I say, we'll be putting this on YouTube. So if people want to get in contact with you, what is the best way for them to do that, Alice?
They can, well, anybody can feel free to message me in LinkedIn. They can direct message me. In fact, that's probably the easiest thing for people to remember. If they just search Alice Watkyn on LinkedIn or through the group, then I'll be happy to answer any questions or send over that worksheet for people on their branding journey.
Fabulous. That's great. It'd be great if we could share the sheet with Jane, and we could put that as part of the message that goes out around this session as well. So that'd be fabulous. So thank you. And yes, just massive thank you again from us at Chaos into Calm Vegan Business Networking, and thank you to everyone for coming along today. Yeah, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks everyone. Thanks Sam.